Welcome to the Stay Hungry podcast. Today, we are joined by Ralph Velasco. Welcome.
Thanks. Thanks for having me, Matthew.
Absolutely. I brought you on because you've had the most crazy and expansive career ever. You've jumped from being a Fortune 500 marketing director, then you worked in the finance world, real estate, but now you've done a pivot. You're currently an international tour organizer. You've done over 130 tours, and you've learned about your travel books too. So you've done basically it all in your career, but I'm curious to start things off for you. Where did all this start for you personally?
Yeah, I'm in the travel industry, as you mentioned, and I always say it only took me 45 years to figure out what I wanted to do with my life.
Exactly.
Yeah, most people never do, so I was happy it only took me that long. But at 45, I decided that I saw this coming together of the internet, social media, digital photography, right around the early 2000s. Not quite social media yet, but certainly the internet and digital photography was starting to come to be in the early 2000s, especially. And I saw a potential for an opportunity to teach people how to use their new digital cameras while traveling. And so for a long time, when I was a young 15-year-old in high school, I studied in Spain. The next summer, I was a volunteer in Peru. The next summer, I volunteered in Venezuela. And the following summer, I was a student in Mexico City. So I'd done a lot of travel from a fairly young age and fell in love with it. But back then in the early 80s, there wasn't the internet and digital photography and all these cell phones and things. So I feel like the perfect storm came together in the early 2000s to create this opportunity that I recognized. And so I decided to create some walking tours around photography and teaching people how to use their new digital devices.
Was it a bit scary? Because you went from like a stable full-time career to now it's like your own career, your own company, more stress than.
Yeah, I've almost always had my own business in one way or another, other than the marketing director of a Fortune 500 company. Like you mentioned, I sold real estate. I was financial advisor. I've owned several restaurants. This is my own business now and has been for 18 years. And I was I took the financial advisor role. I was living in Chicago at the time. I was looking for a way to get to California where I could run this type of an outdoor business, teaching people how to use these cameras out in the field. I could run that 365 days a year in California, which I had lived there before. So that wasn't entirely scary to move to California. But I recognized that opportunity too, that it was going to probably have a much better season than to try to do it in Chicago, which is a great city, very photogenic, but the winter is not ideal. Uh, so it wasn't too scary, although I was starting this new financial advisor business. It was my own business really, but I was working for someone. And so it wasn't scary because I didn't have a full-time paycheck that I wasn't going to get because I was starting this business. I've always been pretty, I guess, a risk taker. I've never been married. I don't have children, so I don't have other people to really consider when it comes to, my financial well-being. So that's a big help.
From the sounds of it, almost all of your career had been sales in some form. Like you were always selling something. And so you already knew that skill from the sounds of it. And so maybe you changed what you were selling, but it wasn't a huge shift for you altogether then.
Yeah, everything is sales in a way in some formats. So yeah, sales is a great skill to learn. My father, who my parents had restaurants too. That I grew up in the restaurant business. I was a third generation, but my dad had taken some like Dale Carnegie courses, and he had started to do some sales. So he always taught me the importance of sales in every aspect of life, whether it's relationships or selling something, or almost everything we're doing. There's some sort of a negotiation.
Curious, what were their thoughts on all this? Because your parents are watching you change from career to career. Did they have like thoughts on that at all?
Yeah, sure they did. They knew my desire to be entrepreneurial and to have my own business, be my own boss, because they knew the benefits of that, but they also knew the hard parts of it. There's no one to rely on, no one to fall back on. You are the buck stops with you. So that in that sense, they weren't they my parents have always said, get a job at the city or something that's, got a paycheck that's you can count on, that has a retirement plan, and all these things that, so many parents say to us. And they were right, but I kind of stuck with what I was looking to do, and I didn't try to just do what the masses were telling me I should do. And I've always been a little contrarian, so it worked out for me, but I'm happy to say that.
Exactly. How'd you pivot? So you have this new touring company. You're at square one. What then do you do?
Yeah, so I started out very slowly, as you can imagine. One thing that your listeners might benefit from is a thing that I recommend is if you're looking to sort of test a new business, perhaps try to teach it. And what I mean by that is that I would always get these quarterly magazines from, I was living in California, City of Newport Beach, City of Orange, whatever, where it would be all the adult education programs available in the area. And these are places that you can go to, start a class through that organization, whether it be the city or a local community college. I taught at the University of California Irvine Extension Program, Santa Ana College, all these other places where I didn't need to have a teaching degree, because these were just adult education courses. They weren't 4 degrees. So I thought that this would be a good way for me to practice my skills of teaching photography, because I wanted to create this photo walking tour company. And I wanted to show my skills. I wanted to get in front of people that were interested in photography and travel. How do I do that? How do I make mistakes with a fewer amount of people, so that hopefully when I get more people, I can, be more professional. So this was a great training ground. The other thing I did was a lot of public speaking in front of photographers, which would be like camera clubs, photography groups, travel groups. I even spoke at the Orange County Fair, different camera stores, which we had camera stores at the time.
Wow.
Yeah, we don't anymore. That was back in the day. So finding out where your audience is, and then eventually, because that was back in about 2005, 6, but then we started to get social media. So people started to be on Facebook and Twitter and all these other. So go where your audience is and be known there. So for me, it was Facebook. My audience was mostly on Facebook. They tend to be a
Right.
little bit older, 45 or older folks. Maybe they've got time, they've got money, they've got the interest to be able to travel. And so that was my sweet spot.
So you would teach them one class and then have them go on like your Facebook and like follow you there and then go from that point, it sounds like.
Yeah, anything I could do. Like I said, it was the early stages of Facebook and all the social media. So I was learning it myself, all that stuff. But that those classes where I might have had just 2 or 3 people in those
Really?
classes.
So it was a
Yeah.
small beginning at first.
Sometimes they were really small, but, I felt that you never know who's gonna be in that class, how many people they know, who they're gonna introduce me to. If I get one person on a trip, that could be $1,000 in profit. So, I was just a hustler and just always looking to get in front of people that I thought would be interested in my services.
So to clarify, you're helping them to know the camera stuff and how to be like their own travel guide too, correct?
Not necessarily, no, I was, teaching them how to use the new cameras that they were, getting, like
Uh-huh.
1 megapixel cameras at the time.
That's
Remember
funny.
those. Yeah,
Funny.
but also, of course, at the end of my talk or my course or whatever it was, I would talk about the walking tours that I was doing because I started out just doing like 2 hours sitting across the kitchen table from someone going over their camera from top to bottom. But living in California, it was a great place to say, "Hey, why don't we go out to the beach and take some pictures right now and put to use the skills I've just taught you?" And then we could see the results right there. So then I would try to get them to maybe go on a weekend trip. And then I started doing trips back to Chicago, where I'm from, and, bringing groups back here for a free trip. And then eventually I started with the international tours in 2009. And now that's all I do is international tours.
I'm curious, do most people you think make it? Because the whole photo world is so like competitive and saturated, so you have to be very good at your craft. So for like your class, like your students, were they like decent, you think, or they like quit usually by this like classes and all that?
Yeah, there's a lot of different levels of photographers, of course, like anything. I started to lead some trips for other companies that were photo tour companies, a little bit more established than I was. They were doing it when the film days. And when I started to lead those trips for these other companies, I realized that these really hardcore photographers yeah, they're interested in every sunrise, every sunset, talk photography 24/7. Everyone's got a bigger, better camera than the next guy. I realized very quickly that that wasn't the type of audience I was going for. I was looking for the more casual type of photographer. Even nowadays, the smartphone photographers. There's many more of those people than, at the top of that pyramid of just those really hardcore people. So I felt that there was a much bigger base of an audience if I sort of, quote, dumbed it down a little bit to, so that ended up working out for me. That was true.
Which makes sense. So if they were to come to you and learn this skill, right, from that point, do you have tips for like marketing at their services as like a photographer in that way?
I'm sorry. What?
So they
Yeah.
learn from you about like photography, right? Like the skill of it. From that point, then what? So like the marketing side of things for their own like clients and all that.
Well, the people that were coming on my trips, some of them were interested in starting businesses. They wanted to become professional photographers, especially back then because there was not that many of us. Now everyone's some
It's
sort
a
of,
big like space now, yes.
yeah, for sure. So they were mostly looking just to improve their own skills when they were traveling.
I see.
Yeah, 'cause
Okay.
I was teaching travel photography. I should mention that. I noticed that other people back then, this is like 2008, 9, other people were teaching the camera at these community colleges and places I was teaching. So I said, I don't want to try to get another camera course in there. What if I taught people what to point the camera at? Learning
Interesting.
how to see. But of course the camera skills come along with it. But, it's just as important what you pointed at as knowing how to use the device.
Oh, now I'm kind of wondering, how does one see while traveling?
Yeah, it's a skill. I think it can be learned because a lot of people ask me, do you need to be born with a photographic eye? And I don't think you have to. I think it can be learned. Just like anything else, I say you can't get worse at photography. The more you do it, the more you do anything, you can only get better at it. So I encourage people to get out there and do it, and that's what we were doing, was actually getting out and playing with these cameras. A lot of people would say, I just bought a new camera and I'm going to read the manual on the flight over to this once in a lifetime trip, and that's just
Funny.
ridiculous. Yeah, you're going on this trip to get great shots, not to learn how to get great shots necessarily. Sure, you want to improve your skills, but you should have already learned those things and the camera before you went on the trip. Yeah.
Exactly. For a lot of people, you have like a dream job because you're paid to travel. But there's probably a difference between traveling like a tourist and how you do things. I'm curious about like what's your definition of like a good travel like experience?
Yeah, it's a big difference, and, people think that I'm on vacation all the time. Yeah, 'cause, I do, I'm on the back end now. I'm just, instead of doing 10 or 12 group trips a year, which I was doing for, like, 15 years,
My goodness,
as
you
of
were
last
traveling a lot then.
yeah, 8, 9 months out of the year, I was on the road. That's why I
Gosh.
don't have, a wife or a girlfriend, 'cause no one wants to put up with that. But, yeah, I was on the road quite a bit, and so, people would think that I'm on vacation all the time, but, there's so much involved in putting these trips together. We've all done our own travel planning, but imagine having to do that 10 or 12 times a year for 10 people, and I always found that I was either by myself or with 10 people. That's kind of the 2 poles of what I was doing. So, I when I travel by myself or when I'm on my own, I'm a much slower traveler. And, I have written some books recently that have to do with mindful and intentional travel, and these are certainly things that came out of my getting older and being able to appreciate slowing down and doing less things more intently than trying to just tick things off a bucket list and touch the surface of a lot of things. I think that comes with age. As you get older, you slow down a bit, you become more appreciative of slowing down. Your body just doesn't work like it used to, and you don't have that energy maybe. So, slowing down, I think, is so important. And photographers are the worst because we spend our time with our eyes to the viewfinder of a camera, and we go to these beautiful places, but all we do is see it through the viewfinder of a camera, and to me, that just sounded ridiculous. And so early on in those 18 years I've been doing this, I started to tell my people, I said, spend as much travel photography is 2 words. Spend as much time traveling as you are photographing. And the
Hmm.
last tip in my book, my first book, 101 Tips for Developing Your Photographic Eye and More, was to put the camera down. And that perhaps should be the first tip in the book, is always be aware and able to put the camera down and not feel like you have to photograph everything. Soak it in with your mind's eye. Take it in internally. Don't just take pictures of it.
Probably tough to do though, because you're trained like your brain to see it. So you're always looking for this angle or that angle. So you're constantly seeing something from that point.
Very difficult. Yep.
You've built an amazing personal brand from Facebook, Instagram, like your YouTube channel. Go more into that because it takes time for like the scaling portion, making content. How did that go for you?
Yeah, it does take time. I had wanted to start a YouTube channel for a long time. My this job is very visual, of course. It's photography and video, and I started to get much more into video. Really enjoyed shooting video. Um, Always had a bigger camera that had the DSLR cameras, big, heavy, interchangeable lenses and stuff. But I was always a one body, one lens shooter. I never wanted to be walking around with 2 bodies, 2 lens, look like a professional photographer with the vest and everything. I wanna look like just Joe Traveler that is taking casual pictures, because I think that your subject will respond differently to you if you look like one or the other. So that always worked out for me. But then with video, I knew that if I was going to start doing video, it had to be a simple setup that I could do with my iPhone or my smartphone. And so I just bought a gimbal and used my iPhone. And then,
What you said a
yeah,
gimbal?
gimbal. A gimbal is like,
What is that? Sorry.
yeah, it's a handheld device that you mount your camera on. It's like a tracking thing.
Oh, I see. It goes like back and forth for you.
It keeps a
Okay.
smooth video, right? It's like, what do they call the guys who wear those cameras? Shoot, I forget, but it keeps the camera still on their
So you can be
body.
like talking and moving at the same
Yeah,
time, then
exactly.
basically.
Uh-huh.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
it's really smooth, and so that was ideal because I could use my smartphone, which was with me all the time. I didn't have to get another camera. So I needed to make it easy on myself. But starting that YouTube channel was not easy. I knew that I wanted to do it right. I wanted to have a professional editor. I had a channel manager that did all the descriptions and keywords and SEO and stuff like that. So it wasn't inexpensive to run the channel, $800 a month just to
Really? Didn't know that.
just in those people. But I wanted to do it that way. I had a brand to keep, so I wanted it to be quality. I wanted people to, expect that from me. So, but after a while, I realized that I wasn't getting the return, so I kind of let it. Uh, it's still out there, the channel. I just haven't uploaded more videos.
Well, it sounds kind of tough because you're waiting out, kind of, right? Because there's no profit quite yet. You're waiting for the next month, next year for those profits. But the whole like YouTube world, it's so like, competitive now for those channels, for the videos. So I imagine it's very tough to get started in that YouTube space for sure.
I've got to think so, yeah. And this was 5, 6 years ago that I started, and I'm seeing just more and more people now, of course.
So you kind of pivoted more to the book side, it sounds like, or do you do like both at the same time, like kind of like balancing it out?
Yeah, I tried to pivot so that quick story, I got gout, which is
Oh,
crazy. Yeah, it's
gosh.
something. Yeah, it's a thing in your toe, calcium buildup or something. But it happened in my toe, and it's really kind of debilitating for 3 or 4 days. But I couldn't walk around. I couldn't hardly get out of bed and walk. And I just had this epiphany that my job as a travel photographer, tour leader, tour organizer, it's very physical. It's not like I'm a sports star or construction worker, but I need to be able to get on and off airplanes and buses and in and out of cars and walk through airports all the time. So I started to think, man, I need to diversify my business, because back then my business was 100% tours. So if I ever got sick or injured, I'd be out of luck. Then we had the pandemic, which you can imagine for a 100% travel business was absolutely devastating for about 2 years. So that was really difficult. Um, I got through it because I'm a one-man business, and I got my expenses down. I live on the road. I'm a digital nomad. You could call me a minimalist. And so wherever my computer is my home. And I don't have any employees or a specific retail workspace like I used to with the restaurant. So I was able to survive that really devastating period of the pandemic. And now I'm on the other side of that. I mentioned, instead of 10 or 12 trips, I'm doing 2 or 3 trips. And I'm also writing the books, doing public speaking. I may create some retreats around the book ideas, but these are, ways of diversifying the business. Plus, I'm doing a lot more individual private tour planning for people. So people that want to go to the places that I go to on a regular basis, like I specialize in Antarctica,
Wow.
Patagonia, Romania,
Incredible.
Cuba. India, a lot of off the beaten path places. And so if people want to go, but I don't have a trip coming up, I can plan that trip for them.
Interesting. Why the one man team? 'Cause if you had more team, you could do more things probably, right?
Yeah, it's a good question. And of course, I've got some virtual assistants and things that help people that help me with things here and there. I did try to bring on some other tour leaders so that I could duplicate myself. But I realized that, and maybe it was a mistake early on, but I created the business too much about me. It was travel with Ralph Velasco, this and that, because, my personality, I'm the one leading the trip. I'm the one who organizes it. I'm the teacher, so it was about me. So, people, if I wanted to get another leader, they had to come with their own following, which is very difficult
Right.
to do. Yeah. So my people, my following didn't necessarily want to travel with someone else on my tours. They wanted me, I guess.
They're
So
gonna try to like use like your brand for their own needs. It sounds like they're kind of using you, your
exactly.
brand,
Yeah,
which
exactly.
sucks for your company.
Yeah,
So you
exactly.
travel quite a bit, do like speeches and all that. Do you have tips for that? Because a lot of people they're scared of that for like the whole like public speaking world. But you're like a master at it. I'm curious for you like your tips on how to do that properly.
Yeah, it does take a certain something to be able to get in front of a group of people and talk. But if you're confident about your subject, you've put together a nice presentation that's interesting and keeps people's attention. And usually the talks are anywhere from 20 to 45 minutes or so not too long, and that time goes really fast. um, so it's a matter, again, of just doing it and being a teacher, starting out teaching at these places I was telling you about earlier. That helped me to be more confident in doing that, helped me to learn my subject. Great way to learn a subject is to teach it.
Yes.
Yeah, and you just have to be 1 or 2 steps ahead of your students, and that's kind of the way I was back in the early days of digital photography. I was learning it too, but I just had to be 1 or 2 chapters ahead of my students, and, and that worked out really well. So, uh, again, teaching is a great way to get that public speaking experience, to get that confidence, and you just need to find out, there are podcasts, here we are right now. This
Exactly.
is a great way to get in front of your audience and other people's audience. So get on podcasts. You're getting in front of people that are specifically interested in your topic because someone like you is taking me onto your show because you think your audience would be interested in, what I have to say. So that's another great way to get in front of people. How can you get in front of people that are interested in what you're selling or have to offer?
Exactly. For a lot of people, you have like their dream job that they want what you have, but they're afraid of the judgment, the doubt, the fear, the risk. Do you think that people, you're like born your way, or do you learn how to become this way? Because for a lot of people, they want that steady, full time career. They want to feel in charge, comfortable. How does one become like you?
Well, I tell you, my sort of philosophy on life has always been that I never wanted to regret having not done something. And so from an early age, I told you about all the trips I took when I was in my teens. Uh, Travel to me was always very important. It was always something I wanted to do and learn from other people around the world. So I wanted to be out there and doing it as much as possible. I understand people that have families, mortgages, children, school payments, and all that stuff. You want to have a paycheck that's coming in. You want to have something to count on. I grew up in an entrepreneurial family, so I saw my parents and grandparents with their own businesses. That helped. Like I said, I've never had kids or a family myself, so I didn't have to worry about that side of it. So I was able to take more risks and, go without making money for longer. Uh, and just getting your expenses down is key. I mean, that it probably goes without saying, but a lot of people, we just buying new cars and new things. I've gotten away from wanting stuff, especially when I went digital nomad, or I minimized back in about 2012, 13, before it was even a term, I guess, minimalization or whatever it was. um, I was doing that, and it's like, if you can get your expenses down, you don't have to make quite as much money. And when you do start to make money, now you really make money because you don't have those expenses. It's just simple supply and demand, expenses and credits. That's all.
Exactly. Well, you have been fantastic. Please feel like your last thoughts or advice of what that would be to the audience.
You know, I do have the best job in the world, or one of them, but it is a job, and like anything else, when you make your hobby into a profession, it can change your hobby or your thoughts on the hobby. That certainly happened to me. Doing photography became more work than it was fun for me, so be careful of that. Balance is really important. But again, my job is, I'm not on vacation all the time, but I've got the best office in the world, which, like I said, where my computer is. So if you're looking for that, do it. Just do it. It's the old saying, just make it happen. You can do it.
Just
Right.
do it.
Yeah.
If people want to find you online, where can they go to?
Sure. So, continentaldrifter.co is where everything is that I do, from, access to the YouTube channel, books, all my tours, getting a custom tour. You can submit a custom tour form. Let me know where you're interested in traveling to, and I could see if I could help you out. So everything is at continentaldrifter.co. And you can also look for me at Ralph Velasco on Instagram, Facebook, and all the social medias.
Go find them, you guys. Thank you all for tuning in. Until next time, stay hungry.